Hi, welcome back to another World Championship walkthrough video. Interlaken in from the 4th tee this time. Fairly easy course. This is one of the more tricky holes, if you could call it that. Anywhere at the front here, just below there, just in front of the green, is going to kind of kick on, especially over towards the left there. It'll kick on a lot more. I think it's a bit higher and shoots forward a bit more. Obviously, I'm allowing for the wind aiming to the right here, which is going to push it in towards the pin, but my aim is to land it maybe 10 yards on the front of the green. You'll notice I've gone for a power forward rather than a 3-wood. A bit more loft means a bit more control when it hits the green. Also, that headwind, slight headwind, means the loft is going to be a bit more when it hits the green, so it's not going to roll on quite as much. So I could actually hit that a little bit harder, but within 3.5 yards isn't bad. And a straightforward enough putt for an eagle. This course, if you've got the stats, is probably the easiest course there is. This and Kyoto maybe. I would probably put this ahead of Kyoto once you've got the stats again. I think Kyoto you can start reaching the par 4s with a few less stats. Some might find that easier at first, but all things considered, all things being equal, I think this is the easiest course out there. Really, if you're getting anything less than 16 under in any wins, then there's something wrong if you've got enough power to reach all the greens. For that reason, you'll find the World Championship, it's very rare anyone wins at Interlaken with less than 17 under. Unless you're lucky, you get a group with very low stat opponents. This is very similar, although the green here is actually sloped back to front, so I'm able to attack the pin a bit more. Not worrying too much about it rolling off the back because of the elevation of the green. There's a lot of greens like that here at Interlaken. Most of the par 4s you can drive with quite a lot of power and not worry about it rolling off the back. This one, however, is a par 3 and it's the opposite way around. You can notice the red at the front means the green's sloping away from us. For that reason, I don't want to land this on the green. If I could backspin it, yes, but a backspin for me is about 80% and it'll travel too low. I won't get much purchase and that'll still roll on. So my aim here, I've gone for a power pitching wedge. Don't often use that club, but occasionally it's useful. Idea is here just to catch the front, which I just have, and you'll see it's rolled on not very far from the hole. You'll see a lot of hole-in-ones at Interlaken as well. Going past the pin's a bit preferable because you get that uphill putt, which is always slightly preferred. But the greens at Interlaken in general are not tricky. You'll get the odd hard one for if you leave the ball miles from the pin, but generally, where if you get it on the green, you're going to get a birdie or an eagle, or perhaps even an albatross. Not this hole, although it's a par 5. Even those with the biggest stats aren't going to be driving this green at 650 yards. You'll notice I actually backed off there a bit. I could have hit this probably 60-70 yards further. However, no benefit to me of doing that. In fact, it's just going to make it harder. You'll notice I've hit it about 170 yards. If I hit that, say 100 yards, I'm hitting a really underpowered wedge into the hole. Either that or a flop, which is maybe just going to creep on the front and leave a tricky putt. So my idea here is to leave a full pitch shot or fullish pitch shot with a sand wedge. So it's about 96-97%. Anything under 93, 94, it starts to be a lot flatter, this shot. You'll notice it's still got quite a lot of loft on it. And that becomes more so with the approach wedge and the pitching wedge. You try and play a 90% pitching wedge, it's almost flat, the flight of the ball. It's a really tricky shot to play, and it's best to avoid. I always tend to go for a power approach wedge rather than a low pitching wedge. So this is another example where the green slopes back to front. If you haven't got the stats, it can be tricky if you're aiming at this front bit of green because it slopes heavily away from you. If you hit it anywhere around here, it's going to bounce back, perhaps even roll back into that bunker. So bear that in mind and hit the practice field. Make sure you can reach this before going for it. Obviously, I've got plenty of stats here. What I'm going to do is I'm just lining it up for the wind here. Again, gone for a power shot, so that's going to give me more loft, more control. It's usually preferable to play a more lofted shot, but I missed the perfect zone there. But make sure that you've got the power to actually make it onto the green. And it does depend. If depending on the shot, you sometimes want it to be flying low, bumping along around the front of the green and rolling on. At Interlaken, it doesn't get that complicated. It really doesn't. It's just a case of getting your distance right, putting it as near the pin as you can, and then guide if needed, pop it in the hole. Like I say, there's a couple of tricky winds. A strong left to right 4-yard wind, for example, on this one could make it tricky. But the wind I've got there, it's really just a case of drawing it, landing it just around the edge on the right hand side of the green. The contours of the green are going to push it over to the left and also hold it up a little bit, so you shouldn't go off the back here unless you really overhit it. With a less lofted club, for instance the 1 wood, you'd be aiming a little bit further to the left and to hit the rough around the front of the green. But that can be tricky. You need to get the distance just right to make sure you get enough power to get it on, and also with it having less loft, there's a chance it could go off the back if you hit it too hard. So an albatross, and again, if you've got the stats, it really isn't hard at all. In fact, I'm only really doing this video because I'm going to do them all. I don't think there's really much anyone can learn from this other than hit it at the pin, make sure you don't hit it too hard or soft, and then play a putting guide. There's a couple of tricky pins, to be fair, and they've made it slightly more tricky. For instance, if you had a big right to left wind there, that tree might be a bit of an obstacle that I just skimmed past there. There's a couple of holes, for instance the par 5, the first par 5, they've added a bunker on the fairway, never used to be there. The next hole you're going to see, the 8th, there's a newish bunker at the front, so they've made it a little bit more tricky, but the principle's the same. Basically drive the green, play a putting guide, or you'll see a lot of people chipping on the green here if it's going to be a close game, because the greens are fairly flat. You get extra points for a chip instead of putt on the green, and you'll see, you know, often games are won and lost by the one who's chipped the most and put it in, because you get an extra couple of points every time you chip. So the only consideration on this hole is you got that bunker at the front, never used to be there. To be honest though, even before it was there, that area was so heavily inclined, you didn't ever want to aim for that anyway. It would often bounce back, and you're not going to, you wouldn't want to aim for that anyway. So the bunker being there is fairly academic, to be honest. Although I guess with a, maybe a low shot or a 1 wood, you might want to aim for that bank and have it pop up. Not a shot I ever played though. The last hole, par 3, probably the biggest hole-in-one chance in the game, this one. The way the green's sloped, there's no right to left break at all to speak of. So essentially, as long as you judge the wind right, you're going to be putting it close, and as long as you run your distance right, you've got a good chance of it going in. You'll see a lot of hole-in-ones here. For that reason, I'm not going to play a backspin shot. Although a backspin is within range, it's about right for my stats. The ball's going to roll back when it lands on the green, so instead I've gone for just a power shot and have it roll up towards the hole. And that's why a backspin shot, much more difficult to have a hole-in-one opportunity. I didn't make it there obviously, but you can see not far away. So that's that. Next one's going to be Aztec from the 5th tee. I'm getting a bit bored of doing these videos, to be honest, but I'm going to try and get through them all. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.